Welcome to the Tuesday, January 24th meeting of the St. Bernard Community Improvement Corporation. We'll go ahead and have a call to order. We'll have our secretary read the roll call, please.
President Stuchel?
Present.
Vice President Rolfson?
Present.
Treasurer Culbertson?
Here.
Joe Brickler?
Here.
Peggy Brickway?
Here.
Ray Culbertson?
Here.
Chris Sauer?
Here.
Chris Schildmeyer? Jerry Wiedemann? Amy Osmalley?
Here.
All right, do we have as far as the minutes, is there a motion to accept the minutes as printed? Are there any corrections?
I'll make a motion to accept the minutes.
I'll second it.
And treasurer's report.
Yes, as of today, the CIC has in the Fifth Third checking account $415,857, and then at the checking account, savings account at First Financial, the balance is $47,978. That concludes. Oh, and we did receive the property taxes for the first half, so I'll be paying those, and I quickly added up into around $55,000. That'll be going out this week. That concludes it.
Okay, this evening, of course, we have representatives from our development group, from Civitas Development Group, that we're going to be making a presentation regarding St. Bernard Square. Just so you're aware, we did announce this at the council meeting. I know I heard some grumbling that this was last minute, but we did put out a call command. But of course, this was announced at council, and we do meet monthly, except for when we've canceled the last couple months. So we wanted to make sure that everyone had an opportunity, if they wanted to come tonight, to hear an update as we're moving through the process. So this evening, we'll go ahead and turn this over to Darren Hall, if we can.
So good evening again. Actually, Happy New Year. We haven't been back. Come on, we're happy to be in front of you again. Our team is growing. I wanted to introduce you to the folks that are here with us. You know Adam from GBBN.
Hey Darren, would you mind making sure, or someone make sure his mic is on?
Can you hear me?
That's much better.
I need to speak
That's
it.
much
Okay.
better.
So I'll just try to lean in here a little
Thank
bit.
you.
So I said it's good to be back here again with you. As we promised when we started, we wanted to be regular in our conversation and our updates with you all. So I wanted to introduce you to even more people of our development team as we're working on this to try to get there. So you have Adam that you've met from GBBN, Brian Dusek, and you have Jack Willard, who's working with us on getting this here. What we wanted to do was to give you an update of where we are. The last time we were here, we talked more about theory and how things could be, and showed you some bubble diagrams. We've got some next iterations of how things are getting close to how they're going to actually look. And this is a big deal for us because if you remember, in the last year, we had 7 interest rate hikes from the Federal Reserve. When you have an interest rate hike from the Federal Reserve, there's more interest on the debt, so the project gets more and more expensive to do. So we had to keep trying to be creative and redesigning it while staying true to what we said we were going to do and the quality of the project that we wanted to get here to. So Adam's he's gonna take you through how it looks, and I'll step out of the way and we'll answer some questions after that a little bit. Yep. So party on.
Good evening, everyone. So we go through a little bit of a project update. That's what Darren spoke to a moment ago. We have some images to sort of begin to visualize the project we'll take you through, and then we'll finish up with where we are with the preliminary schedule for design and construction, and hopefully when we can start getting this thing in the ground. So again, the main goal here is really based off of what we discovered during the community engagement sessions we had a year and a half ago or so. It's really to create a really dynamic catalyst, create a destination in the heart of St. Bernard. It wants to embody the essence of St. Bernard. It wants to feel like it's part of the community It wants to extend the Heritage Hill Business District, get feet and eyes on the street, create a destination that draws people and spurs further development. It wants to maximize the density, so with the apartment units, with some retail component. And then we want to shepherd the investment and be really smart about the decisions that we're making, both for the long term of the development and then just for the financial viability of the project as well. So this is the current site plan. It's largely similar to what we looked at last time. So we're looking at creating this kind of apartment complex that's located on Vine Street. It's a mixed use. The ground floor would be primarily some apartment units, but it also have a retail component, have amenity space. We're looking at providing primary access into the site through this kind of drive aisle, and really creating this idea of this kind of neighborhood urban condition where you have amenity, you have retail spilling out to both sides, you providing access back to the skyline and the Big B Coffee, and really creating a kind of internal intersection that will be really great to draw people in. And then similarly with the public plaza that you see at the corner of McClellan and Vine Street, that's something that we're stepping the building back away from the corner to create a little more of a public space. And so that public space could be used for events. It could be used for outdoor dining that's associated with the retail. It could be used for a number of different programmatic elements as the community sees fit. Similarly, the drive that goes into the site is one lane, it has parallel parking. That could really be closed down for farmers markets on Saturdays. We've really been trying to think about this in ways that it can sort of maximize the flexibility in the way that the community can use it for your best interests, as well as certainly drawing tenants into the development. And now, so what does it look like? So this is an aerial version. Start to see how this kind of masses onto the site. Both buildings would be four stories tall. We're thinking about some townhouses on the backside along Andrew Street, really sort of shrinking the scale down so that the neighborhood back there on Andrew Street isn't overwhelmed with a 4-story building. They're townhouses that feel a little more part of the community. So the bulk of the mass would be on Vine Street. It would feel appropriate. It would be broken down in a way that isn't just one giant kind of wall that's directly on Vine Street. One thing that's sort of critical that we've been talking about is doing something that really fits into the community. And so thinking about the quality of materials that we're using, wanting to be traditional in nature, but we're bringing a sort of a modern interpretation of how they might actually get assembled. So it wants to be traditional, it wants to represent the craft of the community and the architecture that's here in place, but it also wants to be forward-looking so that it creates this really dynamic development as well. So that's the overall aerial. This is a view from Vine Street looking north. So this is that main civic plaza that we talked about a moment ago. You can see how it would be programmed in a way it could be used for, maybe it's a Dora district, maybe there's outdoor dining, maybe there are residential units that actually have their front door sort of back, but accessible from the street level. You see some balconies, you start to see the brick and some of the accent panel, which starts to introduce that kind of rust brown kind of color that we see so prevalent throughout the neighborhood. Really just creating a space that people want to be to, that is attractive to people to come. And yeah, that's right. So these are really conceptual renderings. The whole process, we're still in the progress. We continue to refine it from where we were last time, and the next time we come in front of you, it's a work in progress, and it will be continued to be refined. This is a view through the main drive aisle that goes back into the site, so you can see the two buildings kind of split. You can see the way that drive aisle actually could be programmed. It could host events. It could be something where you have kind of your retail space directly adjacent. You have these spill-out spaces. You have outdoor dining. You have tables and chairs. It wants to be somewhere that people want to be. And then, if you can see it, a little bit of accent with some walking dogs on that curb, a little bit of art piece. And then the last image to show would be the back side. So this is the back side of the north building. And so while we have that kind of main public civic plaza on the south, this would be more geared toward the actual inhabitants of the building. And so a little bit of a garden space, maybe some grills and tables, chairs, somewhere to get a little bit of a respite, somewhere to break down the kind of transition to the surface parking lot, because we know we need to provide enough parking for both this building and the adjacent developments. And so it just provides sort of that front entry from the north building. Yep.
One more thing that we wanted to add is, go back one, how do I go back? I will speak on, how do I go back? Right. So I wanted to make sure that we made the point of this slide here. We've been very, very intentional about making sure that this development does not block out the skyline and the Big B Coffee and the other buildings behind it. That's why it's two buildings, and it's done in a way where you can still see it. People can have access to it. Our whole thing from the very beginning was to be a good developer to the community and do something that adds and not takes anything else as we come in. That's why it's done that way. A lot of people wouldn't have done it that way. It costs more to do it this way, but we think that this is the right way to do it. So I just wanted to add that there. So this is, I know the next question is, okay, well, when is this going to happen? What is the timing of it? And what we wanted to lay out here is that we're now at the end of what we call the conceptual design phase. So figuring out what goes where, how it could look. And so we think that in 4 to 6 weeks, we will have the final design. We'll come back to you before that, obviously. But the final design, the reason that it's important is then we know exactly how much it costs. And when we know exactly how much it costs, then we can close the financing package, because we can't close the financing package if we don't know what to ask the bank to lend us to do it. So it's not a problem, but this is why this is just an iterative process, which is why we wanted to come and get back in front of you so you can see what's going on. As soon as we get that done, we can get into the demolition of the building. And so while you see, we think from now, from the, once we get the final design, we can go and start to apply for our permits. But from that point until we actually get people moving in, that's 24 to 28 months, give or take, you know, what happens, weather and things like that we can't control right now. But that does not mean that nothing is going to happen during that time. We can start the applying for permits, we can start the demolition, we can start the infrastructure work, all that needs to happen while we're doing this. And we just want to let you guys know that it may not look like in some cases that a lot of work is going, but a lot of work is happening. These guys are working hard, getting the final scopes, getting them ready to get our permits, putting the bids out to get the subs to come and do the work. And we just want to make sure we keep coming back in front of you guys, telling you what's happening. So we've come a long way to get to this point, and we've been really working hard to try to put the project forward that we promised that we would try to do when we came to the first community engagement session. And really that's the crux of the message that we wanted to give you tonight, is that project's is on schedule. You see what it's going to look like. We've got the money lined up. We've got the right partners to do it. And we will continue to be collaborative and working to figure out when we actually get started. But we can't wait to get started just as much as you want us to get started. So that is what we will say. We'll take any questions if there are any.
Darren,
Yes.
one question. Is this design about the same amount of units
Yes,
that
it
you
is.
were planning on?
It
Okay.
right now, as it's configured, it's 192 units,
Okay.
which is in line with what we said. It's about 172,000 square feet of development. And we've worked to try to squeeze every ounce out of it that we can, so that we can, we know that the desire is there to have as much retail as you can on the corner. and we've tried to do that, and we'll keep doing it, but it's really tough. I cannot tell you how difficult it is to get projects financed right now. A lot of projects have been shelved because of rising interest rates. Developers in some cases are saying, you know what, we'll just walk away. That is not what we promised. That's not what we want to do. But that's why this is taking a little bit longer than when we were here almost 2 years ago telling you about this. Year and a half ago, right? So.
Darren, we actually had, I'm not going to make Mr. Stegman get up. He can sit from, but Mr. Stegman has a question over here on the other side of the girder here.
No, yeah.
How far back toward Andrew Street?
Yes.
Is that the question? Yeah, so if,
I haven't seen an actual layout, I'm sorry.
okay, so this drawing that's up here on the board probably best represents it.
It's on Vine Street. It's actually forward. It's actually forward.
So it's at the smallest, it's about 10 feet, and then where it steps back, it goes to 15 feet, and then at the plaza, it goes to 50 feet. So it sort of varies. It's not, the point is it's not one continuous wall along Vine. There's a little bit of rhythm to the ins and outs, so it doesn't feel so massive.
Okay, do you still get into it straight across from Ross Avenue?
You do, yeah. So there's a curb cut that we're preserving at Ross. Would be right here.
Okay, for the folks to go to the post office.
Go to the post office, go to the site, it'd have the light there, curb cut would be stay exactly where it is, and then we'd be introducing this additional new curb cut here.
Now, that second one, is that a driving one?
This one here?
Yeah.
It is a driving one, yes. It's
Just entry.
right in only. Yeah.
And remember that this is the first phase of development. We're where it says future development. The reason that that's there is we're waiting for the power lines to come down that are right there right now, and then we can start thinking about what goes there. But we'll be back in front of you all to get to. Yeah, I don't know that either.
Anyway, then, what about on the other side where the old, Long John Silver's way?
We do not. We are working on that design to figure out what goes there right now. We wanted to get this to you first, but we'll come back to do there. But there'll be something that's in line with the plan that the CIC has put forward to go there.
Okay, I was a business person in St. Bernard, retail, and the less retail property or space that you put in there would be the best. You are not going to get that much retail business. Sorry.
So, Mr. Stegman? So just a quick response to that. And I actually, in the beginning, when this all started, there was the discussion of 10,000 square feet of retail space. That has been pared down based upon what's realistic in the market. If you look at other similar developments, and you see open storefront space. So this has been pared down to bring to scale in what is realistic. So that I think would be more representative of the community and what can be supported. And then Darren and his team have done an excellent job in doing their market studies and their research to do that, to not make a greater representation than what could be filled. Or cause damage to other businesses as well.
Thank you.
So we actually, so once we have an established definite timeline, we will be working with the businesses. There's only one business that we actually have a lease with that is outside of month to month. So we would be notifying them. That's Ace Cash Express. Everyone else right now currently is month to month, including Dollar General with a 90-day in the bank, of course. But yes, we will be working with them once we have an established timeline for sure.
Yes.
That's not our, that's not our property.
We don't own that, that's not part of the project.
Okay, well, thank you very much. We'll be back soon.
Thanks.
Definitely
you.
want to thank Darren and his team. Darren's been dealing with me, pressuring him to come and get us answers, and he's like, we're almost there, we're almost there. So I appreciate it. Even though this isn't all final, we wanted to give everyone at least an opportunity to see where it is in process, but we're not far off from getting final renderings and plans, and appreciate your patience and your team. But I know this has been a big deal, and I've always thought that this could happen overnight, but obviously it can't. So, but thank you again for everything and your dedication. So we appreciate you coming.
Thank you very much. This is helpful for us to make sure that we build the right thing that the community wants. So,
Well, thank you again.
Thanks, guys.
Okay, next on our agenda, as far as property maintenance, I've given everyone on the board a copy of the 2023 mowing contract bid specs, the RFP that we put out annually. I am actually asking that we have this completed or submitted, those interested, by Monday, February 27th. Last year, we had it running right up until February, which I think it ran a little bit close. So I will have this available online. It'll be available for pickup, but they'll have a solid month to review this again. All of the specs and the list of properties that are actually involved are all there for you. So if you have anyone that that's in the landscaping maintenance or mowing business, please let them know that these are available or will be available on our website and available for pickup here at City Hall. I'll update it. Next, the water damage. We had a pipe break at First State Bank. We did hold an emergency meeting where we voted to actually approve the expenditures to date, but decline the full scope of $26,800 and some odd dollars worth of labor for the most part. We've done a lot of the elbow work ourselves to date, so that's been removed, but the actual damage occurred in the loan center where a pipe in the ceiling broke. So we're actually making headway and getting the place cleaned out, but we are not going to be renting that. It was never in condition to rent to begin with. Actually, there wasn't anything in that building that was in condition to be rented other than the current occupied bank. So as of right now, it's just a matter of cleaning up furniture and carpet, and so we're in pretty good shape. But that we're waiting on the final bill as far as of the first of the week. So we should be having something in hand. As far as anything else with general property cleanup, we're getting back to around having to come back and clean up trash and whatnot. But for the most part, our properties, that we have on Vine Street, have pretty much stayed consistent. But we're not going to be making a huge investment in landscaping, knowing what we're going to be doing with the shopping center. But we will be working to try to get all the trash and everything cleaned up in an order. We did have, before we go into the open discussion, additional agenda items, we were contacted by a property owner here in the village that was interested in actually selling their property to us. So if there is actually interest in the village, or I should say even the CIC, I would like to ask that we go into executive session to discuss the purchase of property and go into more detail, if anyone on the board has interest in a Vine Street property purchase.
Mr. President, I'll make a motion that we go to executive session and discuss it.
I'll second that.
On the motion to go into executive session for the purchase, to discuss the purchase of property. Sorry, guys. President Stuchel,
Yes.
Vice President Rolson,
Yes.
Treasurer Culbertson,
Yes.
Joe Brickler. Yes. Peggy Brickweg,
Yes.
Ray Culbertson,
Yes.
Chris Sauer,
Yes.
Chris Schildmeyer,
Yes.
Amy Ismaili.
Yes.
At this point, though, I'd rather, before why don't we do that last, if possible? If we could go ahead and finish the open discussion, additional agenda items. If there's anyone else on the board that has anything under those items before we would go into executive session and open this up to the public?
I have a question. Any update on the townhouses? I mean, are those people still interested in it, or?
So you're actually on the committee that will be involved in that. We actually are putting that back. So basically, to draw up the specs and what we're looking at doing. So they are still interested, but I think that we can also open that up once we have more defined on this project. I think it would be more appropriate to actually, there might be a greater interest, and we might have more than one person actually coming forward and submitting specs. But we are going to be having a committee meeting on that, again, to address the original concerns that were expressed by the citizens that in that particular neighborhood with respect to the original designs that were submitted, because it was going to greatly impact the parking in that area. But I think that once this is defined, it's going to be an appropriate time to then to bring that out, and you'll be there, right? Anyone else on the board have anything? Anyone in the public have anything under open items or?
The townhomes you're discussing, are those the tower end?
Correct. We were talking about the empty lot. So the original plan, we had opened it up and basically had, the idea was to try to put a mildly different design than what the two that were already there. But the design itself really limited the on-street parking, and it definitely did concern the residents. So can go back to the drawing board and maybe look at what might else come along. But again, we don't want to cause any hardship with anyone knowing that parking is an ultra-sensitive issue in the village. If there isn't anything else, we are going to go into executive session. You're welcome to stay, but I don't think there'll be much conversation afterwards. Thank you again for coming, and once we have definite conceptual designs that we know are going to be forthcoming, we will make sure that there is advance notice so that everyone has an opportunity to see what is submitted. So thank you.